Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Hello, everyone. This is Guy Panetta with Jewelry Store Marketers, and we are here with another episode of the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry podcast. And this time I'm lucky enough to have Elisa Dillon of Southern Jewelry News with me. Welcome, Elisa. Always
hello.
Great. Everyone
Good to be here
loves
again.
Elisa. That's why they tune in, not because of me. They can tune in because of Elisa.
I don't think so. Well.
But today we have a special guest, John Carter of Jack Lewis Jewelers. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Been looking forward to this.
Yeah. We were excited to have you, say yeah to joining us. And we know you've been fantastic. You've been featured, I think, a few times on Southern Jewelry News, and looks like you got a great store. Could you tell us about your store and the history of the store?
Yeah, I'm the owner of Jack Lewis Jewelers in Bloomington, Illinois, and people always get us confused with the other Bloomington. I say Bloomington, Indiana. This is Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, so it's twin towns right here in the middle of the state. Yes, Normal is a real town. I was born in Normal. Normal, Illinois. And so Bloomington Normal is right in between Chicago and St. Louis, about 2 hours north, 2 hours south of Chicago, and about 2.5 hours north of St. Louis. So right in the middle of the state. The store was founded in 1927 by Mr. Lewis, by Jack Lewis. I'm the third generation to own the store, but not family. The second generation was also not family, and I was not his family. So we're unique in that sense. We are 96 years old.
Wow.
And so a lot of changes in that time. That store was founded then, as a lot of towns, or a lot of jewelry stores were founded in, I'm sure you have listeners who probably could say the same thing if they have long-standing traditional stores like ours. But a lot of stores back then were founded by watchmakers in railroad towns. And so the thing about a railroad town is railroad employees had to, once a month, have their watch regulated so that it was on time with an official railroad clock. So Jack Lewis had a railroad clock. You had a stream of railroad employees coming through. And again, the store was founded in 1927. What happens 2 years later? Of course, the Depression. And so the store continued to thrive even during the Depression because of that steady stream of traffic. And really, the railroad built many of these towns in the Midwest, and I would say that this is no exception. So fast forward to the 70s when a gentleman named John Wolverine came to the store. He bought the store in the 90s, and I started here in high school as a junior in high school, taking out the trash and doing the mail and things like that. And then I stayed in town to go to college at Illinois State. And then after that, I was a sales rep on the road, actually, for a watch company for 5 years. Then I came back to Jack Lewis in 2002 and bought the store back in 2011.
Wow.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. No.
That's it. We don't have anything. I have a question. Like, when you were a teenager, how did you get that job? Was like, hey, I want to go work in a jewelry store, or was it your dad? Hey, I know somebody, you need to go to work. I'm curious how a 16-year-old ended up, in a jewelry store, because that rarely happens now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, and in those days, our store was downtown. Was downtown Bloomington instead of the location that we have now. And so I went to a high school that was right up the street, and one of the counselors at the school, she was actually the dean of students at the time. She came up to me and she said, "Carter, do you have a job?" And I said, "Yeah, but I hate it because I was bussing tables, which was terrible." And, 16, who wants to bus tables anyway?
No.
It was terrible. And she said, "Well, how'd you like to work at a jewelry store?" I said, "Sure. I mean, that sounds way better." And so she said, "Okay." So she said, go to this store on this date. And we had 2 locations at that time. So I went and interviewed and I went there and they said, "Yeah, we need you to do the trash and we need you to do things like that." So I went on my first day of work and I did those things. That took about an hour. And then I had, 4 or 5 more hours on my shift. And they said, "Okay, here's some keys. Go learn how to sell things." And that's literally how it happened. And,
wow.
There was a real value in those days. We regularly hired high school kids to come over after school to change batteries and to do those things. We've gotten away from it a little bit, but I think I'll do it again because it was a really good way. In retrospect, I realized that was just two friends in a small town, meaning the lady who hired me and the lady at the high school. And she just said, watch out for what you think is a good kid, somebody we can trust and somebody that might work hard. And that really was kind of the first evidence in my life where it opened a door because of, yes, being in the right place at the right time, but also carrying myself well and making an impression on somebody else. So that was a really good lesson.
Fantastic.
Amazing. That's a good lesson.
Yeah, that is a good lesson. I guess we talk to a lot of jewelers, and succession is always on their minds as they, when they've been running their stores for many years. And some jewelers are lucky enough to have children or family that want to take on the business. Once in a while, we hear of someone that is not part of the family that has really steps up like you have to demonstrate the ability to carry on the business, and that's always great to hear. And I don't hear too much of it, but do you have any advice for someone, a key person in a jewelry store, that may have that opportunity that you had?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when I'm asked that question, Guy, a lot of times I'm addressing the people who own the store currently, because one of my biggest bits of advice, and I've had over the years, I've had several people reach out, and I've had lunch or breakfast if we're at a trade show or just a Zoom call like this. People will want to pick my brain for how that happened, but the number one key to success, the reason why our transition was successful, and I think it was the reason why John's transition was successful from Mr. Lewis back in the 90s, was because both gentlemen wanted the business to carry on, and they wanted the next person to be the heir to that.
Right.
And that's really important, because as a friend of mine always says, a jewelry store may be the most difficult thing in the world to sell. There's just not a lot, because you have to sell it to somebody that hopefully knows your store, knows your community, can afford to buy it. And so my advice always is to the people who are selling it is you have to be willing to give up more than you think you're going to have to give up when you go into the process. It has to be important for you, for your legacy and that business to carry on. My advice to the people on the other side of it, which was your question, Guy, was it's worth it. It's worth it to get in to a business, pay your dues, work from the ground up, take out that trash, change the watch batteries, because that never changes. Change 2 batteries a day. So it's you do what you have to do. It is retail. This is not the hardest job that I've ever had in my life. That bussing the tables job was probably the worst job I had in my life, right? I get to wear a suit for a living and sell beautiful things to people who are in love. So my best advice is it's worth it for both sides, because our jewelry stores and all of our communities are beacons. They're a part of our towns. It should be important for those stores to carry on, because what a shame. At least I'm sure that you know this more than anybody, to see all these beautiful businesses that close around the country because there's not that next generation to take it over. But you might have somebody on your team who's worthy and who wants it. Work with them. And I just think that everybody's happy, and the biggest winner really is your community.
Right. Fantastic. Great advice. You talked
probably more than you bargained for on that question.
No,
that was good.
It's definitely good. You talked about legacy and carrying on, and obviously, and the way you described the store and how it started was really, really awesome to hear about the legacy and how the beginnings of the company. And but from the article in Southern Jewelry News, there was you are still carrying on the name and its legacy, but you made some changes that brought it to a new light. To cater to a new type of clientele. Could you talk about that?
Sure. I mean, the one thing about buying a store that had been in business for that long is you inherit the good and the bad. And when you have a store that has been around for generations, meaning multiple generations, in our case, 3, possibly 4, um, you also inherit some of the bad feelings that can go along with that. Like somebody back in the 60s was not nice to my grandmother at the store, or this happened. And so you battle the bad legacy that goes along with it as well. And my approach, I remember the first week, and Guy, you can appreciate this given your marketing background. My marketing guy, Josh, you'll see in some of our promotional things that we do. I've known him for years. I sold him an engagement ring back when we were both young guys, right? And the week that I bought the business, he asked me to meet with him, and he said, "Leave your cell phone behind. Don't bring it," which for me is, like the ultimate sacrifice, even then. And he said, he started to ask me these series of questions. It was like, if Jack Lewis was a car, what kind of car would you want it to be? If it was a song, what is it? What would you like it to be? And the point to the questioning was, what do you want to change about the perception of your business? And I didn't want to be only an exclusive jewelry store that sold nice things. I wanted to be the place. If somebody has $500 to spend on an engagement ring, why would I belittle that? I want to be that store that sells that $500 engagement ring. I want to be the store that sells the $50,000 engagement rings as well, of course. And so there's a fine line, and you can do both. And that really is what he and I teamed up to do from that early stage. And it wasn't just about setting a target then and creating an image and then just having that one set image and never evolving. Because think about all the things that have happened since 2011 when I bought the store, right? I mean, had we not evolved and gone so heavy in social media and just stuck to the billboards that were working for us at that time, we wouldn't have seen the success that we have today. So it's a constant evolution. And I think so many times in our industry, we come up with an image that works. And branding is important. You don't want to tinker with that. That's not what I'm talking about. But in terms of how you deliver the message and certain messages and what messages you want to deliver, that can evolve and change. And most importantly, how you deliver that message. And that's really been a big secret to our success. Was I had said to him in that meeting early on, he said, the last question he asked me, he said, if you could change one thing about Jack Lewis Jewelers, what would it be? And I said, if one more person tells me that they didn't buy their engagement ring from us because they couldn't afford Jack Lewis, I said, I'm going to punch myself in the face. Because it's just frustrating, because that's not true. And I knew it wasn't true. And he said, okay, we're going to change that. And I thought it would be like steering the Titanic, but it wasn't. It was really setting the right message, delivering it heavily, and then becoming, if you look us up digitally, I mean, you can see our 1,100 5-star reviews or whatever it is now. I mean, it's literally because we hired good people. We empower them to make decisions that they don't need to come ask me for every little thing. It's like, make the client happy. If the client leaves unhappy, then I'm unhappy. So it's a lot of that, and that really helped me to change the perception of the business. And it's really, I think, the recipe to our success is that we were willing to do that, address what was negative about the business, change it, and constantly turn the knobs to make sure that message is clarified and strengthened.
Fantastic.
And what could be more important than, seeing the results, right? So you made these changes, implemented them, and you got results.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's very important. I know people can be very intimidated going into jewelry stores. So being able to market your message that you're, here for everyone. I thought the best thing that I read was your campaign where you put in size doesn't matter. She does.
Yeah.
To me, I just thought that was like the most perfect marketing idea. How creative, what a message. And, obviously we also, maybe you could talk to our audience a little bit more about that campaign, your video messaging. And there was something else I saw on your Facebook page about Bling Fest. So I can tell that you're really looking at your Facebook and your website, you really do cover the gamut. I think that's important for all independent jewelers. Don't put yourself in as this, fine jewelry store. And if you're out there wanting to serve the whole community, that is high end, middle end, and even maybe low end, you're there. I think that's a great message.
Yeah, and thank you for that. Because it matters. That campaign, it's so funny that you bring that up, because that was the campaign that came out of that conversation with Josh. Because, and it's not really just lip service, right? Like most of
No.
my most of my friends would say that, I'm a really sentimental guy, and I'm emotional. I'm a crier sometimes, and I'm a hugger. And it's not lost on me that people come to us almost exclusively to celebrate happy occasions. That's the role that we play in our community. And if somebody's coming here and they're in love and they only have a couple $100 or $500 or whatever, it is my job to keep those clients on budget and not just try to sell them something more expensive. And it's my team does a great job of that, and that's why we have such a high referral rate. And if you want to break it down to ugly words like closing ratios and things like that, it's because we're not high pressure and we're kind. And it's what people lose, I think, in this trade sometimes is they forget that. Just focus on engagement rings for a second. But even if you break it down to anniversaries or whatever, the one reason why people walk through your front door is because they're in love. And we can break this down to KPIs and aged inventory and SEO and SEM and everything else that we want. But like we're not in the love business, but we are in the symbolism business of that love. And that's really important. And it's if you just put yourself on a pedestal and say, I only want to have the $5,000 and above sales, you can do that. And there are businesses that can be successful and do that. I think you need to be in a large city, and I think you need to have tons and tons of competition to do that, and to just specialize in one individual thing. But for me, that campaign, size doesn't matter. And now we've changed it a little bit. It says size doesn't matter, love matters. Because it reinforces that we truly don't care how much somebody spends. And the second part of that line was, we don't care how much you spend. We just want you to focus on why you're spending. And that really sent the right message. It tugs the right heartstrings. I remember the first, maybe about a month after we bought the store, and Josh sent me, I went in and voiced some commercials, and he sent me the results. I was sitting on the couch with my wife, and she had, obviously worked. We had been together for many years back before I had owned the store. And I played one of those commercials for her, Elisa, and it was a 30-second commercial, and she cried. And I said, we got it. That's it. That's what we wanted. We wanted to hit people.
Hit that emotional button.
It is Jack Lewis. It's the quality that but we want everybody to walk through the door and feel loved, and we want to be a part of everybody's life.
That's amazing.
What a great message. Yeah, that's good.
That is a really good message. You said a lot of things in this last exchange that really resonated with me. And as a marketing company, I think a lot of jewelry store owners don't always identify or accept sometimes. A lot of jewelry stores they figure luxury, my website needs to be luxury jewelry about selling the expensive rings, because that's what they want. But it sounds like you guys have really put a lot of your personality and your values as a person, not just as a business owner of a jewelry. Your values as a person comes out, and you want to take care of people, not just get the sales. And I could see that, and it sounds like that's what you do that's what you've done in the store. That's what you do, and that's the value that you teach your employees, and that's how you come across in your advertising and your marketing. And I think that's really valuable. A lot of people they come to me and say, I want to sell more rings, I want to sell more jewelry, but they don't really. They think you could just turn on the magic luxury button and people come buy jewelry, but there's a lot of jewelry stores that do that. How do you set yourself apart? And you set yourself apart by connecting with people, connecting with the emotion.
And then I think that thank you. And because I think that to follow up with what you're saying, and maybe to even piggyback on what I was saying a second ago, is you can come up with a clever marketing slogan, right? but the experience has to match your slogan.
Right.
So I can come up with a great thing and I can have the right people here to greet them, but it's not just the people and it's not just the marketing. I have to have the inventory in the case then that matches. Like if I say, I don't care if you spend $500 on an engagement ring, I darn well better have a $500 engagement ring in the store.
Right.
So you have to tackle it on all three fronts. It isn't just, I have a clever campaign, we're going to run it. You have to constantly, if that's the route that you go, that you want to be the emotion driven business, then you have to also have the product and the experience in your store that matches that. It's really essential, because if you say, we don't care how much you spend, we just want you to focus on why you're spending it, and then somebody comes in and you snub them and you treat them like garbage, they'll never be back, and they'll tell their friends that experience as well. So it's really, it's all very crucial to make sure that those things all align.
Right.
John, how many people do you employ in your store?
We had just hired a couple more. I think we are 15 now.
Wow.
Releasing.
15. And what's
it's a great team. And you know, we focus on those other things and we have fun and we have the price point things. I would consider us a luxury store. But I think we're a luxury store that people feel welcome in.
Comfortable.
And I think that's the key. That's the key. You still can focus on and make your experience. You can be a luxury retailer, but you can be fun.
Absolutely.
Well, you're doing a lot of your own videos and things like that. People, the consumers watching you going, wow, I kind of connect. This guy's the owner and he's funny and he's young. I got to go. So that's the connection. Well, you know, you're not old school, you know, I hate to come in, you know.
Young at heart.
Yeah. Well, I think people relate to you, John, and your store. So that's what you're doing, particularly if you're having a marketing guy or guru, a friend, is so important.
Right.
You know, you really do need that marketing person to tell you whether what your idea is good, bad, or ugly. But you know, it's nice that you have people. So I guess if you had any advice to give to a new store owner about marketing and advertising, what would you ask them? What would you give your piece of advice?
Well, you want to find somebody that you can relate to that understands your vision. I mean, that's key. And interview people. And don't just say, well, this person's in the trade and my other friends use them, so they must be good.
Right.
They have to truly, why it works for Josh is because he understands my business and he understands me as a person. So he knows what's important to me. And it's not just money. It's not just sales. It's overall experience. And I want to work with good people. And the other thing that you have to do, and Guy, this will be music to your ears, is you have to empower that marketing company to do things sometimes even when you don't agree with them.
Amen.
It's really important.
Sorry.
And Guy, preach. It's really important, Guy, in your line of work on the SEO side of things, because I'm sure it's really frustrating. Is Guy will do a Google ad for somebody, and within 30 days they'll say, Guy, these results are terrible. We got 2 calls and we did this, we did that. Well, Guy understands that you have to run that thing for at least 6 months before you have any really manageable data on it, right?
Right.
The same thing goes for just your marketing and your perception in general. Like, you have to give it some time. And then the other thing, the reason why Josh is successful, and I'll say this, I'll make sure not to share this clip with him because I don't want him to hear this, but is if I do something, or if I say, hey, I want to do this, and this is he'll call me out on it. He'll say, now wait a minute, that doesn't match the brand image that we agreed to, you know, back when we went on this campaign or we changed branding. And I'll say, yeah, but, and he'll say, I don't care. And then, you know, for the most part, and we have some back and forth, and we have about 2 or 3 disagreements a year, but it's always in good nature, or maybe over a glass of whiskey or something like that. And I have to understand that, like, why am I paying all this money to this marketing person who truly does marketing all the time if I'm not going to listen to his advice?
Right.
So that's the best advice, is you find somebody you can connect with. And if you find somebody, SEO is really, really important. I think it's the most important. I know. Yeah, right. I guess he's. Yeah. Lisa, let's try to time that. There you go. You know, it's. And I'm not saying that this is not a plug for Guy. We don't even work together. But to understand, to get somebody who truly understands SEO, and a lot of your listeners are going to be in a small community, right? If you want to draw from other communities, this is how you do it. You don't just throw a billboard up on their main street, but you hit the SEO, and you do Google ads, and you're making sure that your Instagram ads are hitting the right demographics at the right time. That's how you grow, and that's how you get people that will drive 200 miles to come visit your store. As in our case, we have quite a bit. It's essential. So you have to, the really the shortest answer to your question, which, as you can tell by now, I don't really give short answers, is that you have to find a marketing company that you can relate to, that understands you, that you have a great real working relationship with, that cares about your business.
Yeah.
And then it's not just cookie cuttering everything to make you fit into whatever it is that they think works, because every business is different. And then most importantly, for the retailer, you have to step back and take the leap of faith and just trust your own judgment that you hired somebody that's smart, that can do what they promised you that they would do, and then reassess it after a year. And if it's not working for you, that's good. But you had manageable data after a year, and then don't tinker with your brand that often. That's the second part of that advice.
Wow.
Good advice. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. Certainly really, really happy to have you on this podcast. No, you're right.
Are you going to put like your little watermark underneath?
That's it. That's it. We're going to reuse this on my marketing campaigns. But no, it's nice to have nice to talk to a jeweler, an owner of a jewelry store that understands that it doesn't happen overnight. It's not, there's no silver bullet. It takes effort, and I'm sure that that's every part of your business. It takes a lot of effort and consistency, and sounds like your employees as well have, you've trained them well, and they've become amazing brand ambassadors, and all of that takes effort and time to develop that. So that's really amazing, and congratulations! Wow. That's really not an easy thing to do, all these things. And with the where you've come so far with your company, where are you going next? What's next for your company, for you?
Well, I mean, we are working on some things, some things that are still not like public, but growth is always a part of what we do here, in terms of adding new product lines, adding more people, expanding our reach. We hope, we don't consider ourselves to be a local jeweler. We consider, while this is our community, and this is my home, and this is where I grew up, we're really more of a regional destination. And that's the way that we want it to be. We're worth the drive. We're worth the trip to come from a different community to our store, because we think that we are that much different, and we know that we'll deliver on that, and we know once somebody does that once, that they'll come back. So for me, the answer to that is just to keep expanding and keep growing our influence, really beyond just these zip codes. And we have some really cool things in the works, from a social media perspective. That again, the marketing company has really tackled some cool concepts for us, that things that have been in the back of my mind. I'll just come up with that weird idea and text my guy I wait till 9 a.m. at least, but things that keep me awake at night, and say, hey, what if we did this? And he'll be like, okay, that's a terrible idea, or that's a great idea, but let's do this. Yeah. And it does take time. The CarterCast videos that we have now that you'll find on Instagram. For us, a big thing, I think, an initiative in the future is going to be to have more video content. Yeah. Because that video content, or as you know, like YouTube Shorts have been really key for us to drive. It's helped our SEO. It's helped drive traffic. Yeah. And Elisa, you indicated it earlier, but people, we just are putting those videos out. It's literally just Josh and I talking about a topic in the industry. It might be laboratory grown diamonds, or it might be what's the engagement ring experience like. It's all off the cuff. I don't even know what we're going to talk about generally. Josh might say this is the topic we're going to talk about, but he emails me, but I intentionally don't ever read his questions, because I want it to be candid.
Right.
because I want it to be as if I was talking to a client. What would I say about alternative gemstones for an engagement ring? Or Josh will find things on the internet, like when we did an entire episode on "Are diamonds just a big scam?" And it was just the back and forth, and he was the novice, and I was hopefully the expert, and reasons why diamonds aren't a big scam and why it's a wise investment. So more of that, because our goal will be to expand that YouTube audience and to see where those YouTube short videos can lead, because we end up with videos that have 10,000. We have one video on our page now, I think it's almost 100,000 views. I mean, that's definitely the
that's great.
Not just views in a Facebook feed, actual views on YouTube.
On YouTube, that's great. What's the Bling Fest that I saw on your Facebook page?
Yeah, Bling Fest has taken on several different forms over the years. It started off originally, we were very silly with Bling Fest. We had this like really catchy song. You probably find it on there somewhere. It just said "Come to Bling Fest" over and over again. I'll spare you. I'm not the singer in the video. You don't want me to be. And it really just started years ago. I think this is probably 7 or 8 years ago now, where we wanted to have a wedding band event, because we wanted, as you know, Elisa, you probably read this statistic, or maybe you've even written about it. Somebody has, about, we don't really truly have a client until they buy their wedding band from us. Anybody could sell them an engagement ring if you had just the right diamond that they were looking for at the time, but you don't really have them as a lifelong customer until you sell them their wedding rings. And hopefully then you did that right, and then you should be good. So the Bling Fest was about bringing in selection. We have 2 vendors that come in for that event every year, and they bring everything, and we just lay it all in the cases. It's a lot of samples and things like that. So and we make it a party, and it's we bring in extra merchandise. We generally do extra selection of diamonds and things like that. And notice what I didn't say. It's not a sale. We're not discounting things. It's additional financing options and selection, and that's literally all it's about.
Wow.
And it's a big. We do it twice a year now. We do it one in the spring, one in the fall, and it's a big draw for us. And when we sell an engagement ring at the counter, say in April, we'll tell people, make sure you come back for Bling Fest. It'll be sometime in the fall. We'll call you, and then we make sure my staff does a great job of clienteling and making sure that their people are aware of when Bling Fest is. And we do a little bit of a discount for wedding bands if they buy their bands there, but again, it's not the main draw of the event. It's just to get them back in the store.
Yeah, I love the name. I just like the concept. I think it's great. I hope you continued success with the Bling Fest.
We name everything here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, you should. That's great. It's very creative.
That's great.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, John. What would you tell someone, another jewelry store that says video is too hard? What would you tell them?
They're right. Yeah, it is hard, Guy. And you did a great episode. It's a gentleman's name, the marketer, Diamond.
George Prout?
It wasn't George. I know George. It was. I was listening to one of your podcasts the other day, and he was talking about everybody thinks that you just dismiss it if you're not somebody that thinks that they're good on camera, and so you don't do it. It takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
It does take time. It doesn't have to be. The way that we do it now, because it's evolved over the years, is it's actually a professional looking studio that Josh has created in his marketing office for CarterCast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he and I sit down, and it's backlit, and he's got amazing cameras and things like that. But video doesn't have to be that. Ours just has taken on that because it's part of our image and who we are, and it's really, it delivers on the mission that I want, which is to deliver information to the consumer, even somebody not here. It might be somebody in New Mexico that I'll never meet, but they see my video about how to buy a diamond engagement ring, and I want that to be helpful. People dismiss YouTube sometimes in our industry, and they say that it's not important, and that's not for our industry. YouTube is the second largest search engine next to Google.
Right.
And we all do it, right? If you're going to go change an electrical socket and you don't know how to do it, what are you going to do? You're going to YouTube.
Exactly.
You're not going to just Google.
Yep.
So it's
I think
really,
it saved many marriages. I can't fix the refrigerator.
yeah.
Okay, well, get on YouTube and maybe you'll be able to fix the Voila, the refrigerator is fixed. And the marriage is saved.
Or you see it on YouTube and be like, I have no business touching that refrigerator. I'm going to call somebody who knows what they're doing. That's okay too. That's probably saved more marriages than
exactly.
And so, because that just happened to me this last weekend on the air conditioner, and I thought, okay, I literally have no business bouncing around there, so I got somebody out to take care of it. So it's yes, it's really important, and it is difficult. It is, especially if you don't consider yourself somebody who's, quote, good on camera. But as your guest said the other day, and we're totally shortchanging him because I don't want to quote him on this, but he said, and he was right, he said, your customers don't expect you to look like you're on you're anchoring the network news. They truly want the authentic you.
Right.
They do support your business. They love your business. They want to see, and video is a powerful way to reach people. So again, this is after my long answer, but my short answer to you is it is difficult, but it's worth it.
Right.
And just start with shorts. Nobody's really watching, when we do a CarterCast episode, it's 45 minutes long. I don't expect people to watch a 45-minute video. But we take the 45-minute video and we release little 2-minute versions of that. And hopefully we have some sound bites in there that are worthy of 2 minutes of your time. And then if people are intrigued, they'll go in and watch the whole thing. But those full episodes end up with some of them 5,000 or 6,000 views.
Right.
That's great.
That's great. And so you don't have to do a 45-minute episode, but it could be, and it doesn't just have to be the store owner. It could be your team that specializes in different things. Talk about how we have a wonderful video that's out right now. We call it our Share the Repair series, which used to be just still photos. And now it's literally done almost like an episode of 60 Minutes where Tammy, our shop manager, and Mariki, our goldsmith, talk about a piece of jewelry that needed to be repaired. And then Mariki shows you from start to finish what he did to repair that piece of jewelry.
I love that.
And then the client was thrilled. The client all signs off on that being a featured piece in what we do, because that's underappreciated, right? How much work it is to work on a piece.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to. These things are all important. The videos are important, Guy, because it lifts the veil of the mystery of what we do.
Exactly.
They all think we're going to switch their diamonds, or we don't. We're just charging too much to size their grandmother's ring.
Right.
But there's reasons for all of that. So the video lets them behind the curtain a little bit and just lets them see how it's all done.
That's great. And
I like it.
Builds
trust.
Almost everybody has a quality video camera in their pocket with their cell phones, right?
Yeah, that's the point.
The later, not just the newest, but the last few years, your iPhones and Androids and just these phones have amazing video capabilities. You don't have to go spending a lot of money to do it. You have something available, and like you said, just while you're setting a stone or cleaning some jewelry or something, just whip out your phone and start recording that thing that you're doing.
Start small, like if I was starting from scratch and all I had was my Android, I would take 2 minutes and I would show somebody what's involved with me cleaning their ring.
Right.
Start with your day-to-day things. What does it look like to change a watch pattern? What is it? Start with those small things. If you really want to baby step your way into it, and then you'll also develop your own style for how to do it on camera.
Yeah.
I became a pretty good public speaker over the years because Josh wrote all my commercials. In the old days, when I would just go to the radio station and they would say, "Okay, here's your script, kid, read it," and I would read it. They didn't care if I sounded good or if it was an effective commercial. They'd say, "That sounds fine." But when I record a commercial now, it's literally no. Put the emphasis on this word. Put the emphasis on that word. Say this line again and mix it with that line, and do this and do that. It might take us 30 minutes to record a 30-second commercial. But what that did, and my wife recognized it after about 2 or 3 years of that, I gave an address at my high school for homecoming. And she said to me after I got done, she said, "Josh has helped you become a better public speaker." And I said, that's all because of just coaching those little, you hear your voice differently when you do your own commercials or when you do your own radio ads or videos or shorts and things like this. And then you think about it as you're even talking to people and you hear yourself differently. And so it's important. It's like anything else. If you don't try it, you're never going to be any good at it. And if you don't make mistakes, you're not doing it right.
Right.
True.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people that come on this podcast, and even at the podcast down in Atlanta, they're really nervous to be on this podcast. Or oh, you're videoing to, like, look, just, just relax. We promise we're just going to be it's going to be very easy. And by the time we're finished 20, 30 minutes later, they're just like, is that all that was?
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, can
And
we
we're
go
like,
longer?
yeah.
I mean, you're just talking to friends.
Yeah, I said,
You two are really good at it too. I mean,
well, thanks. I mean,
very
and
Yeah.
so, but yeah, we were able to. People are really surprised, and if you my whole thing is just be yourself, and that's what matters. Just be yourself. And you could see that with you in your videos and things that I've seen.
Yep.
Because I want to get back to when people are picking a jeweler, they need to pick a jeweler just like they're picking a doctor. You have to trust it. And I've told everybody that, what kind of, who jeweler, whoever you trust the most, whoever have the most, but you should pick a jeweler like you pick your healthcare professional, because that person you need to trust for the rest of your life. You're going to, in all your, these special occasions, you're going to put in trust to your jeweler. And I think that's really, really important to
well,
state.
And it's so nice. It's a it's a load that you take off their shoulders when they have somebody in our industry that they can trust, because just about everything that we sell them is a blind purchase.
Right.
And, years ago, I had this young guy in the store. I tell this story on one of the Carter Cast episodes, but he had been to. I could just tell he was miserable at the diamond counter, and I said to him, "So what's going on?" And he said, "I've been to 13 different jewelry stores." I said, "I didn't even know there were 13 different stores." You gotta be driving yourself crazy. He said, "I am." And he said, "Because this person tells me this, and this person tells me this, and you tell me this." And I said, "You gotta stop, man." I said, "You just gotta what I do is not rocket science,
Right?
But it does take experience, and you have to trust at some point that somebody on my side of the counter knows more than what you do." And so you're so right, Elisa. They have to find somebody that knows more about it than they do, and it is our job to be that person and to, again, let them behind the curtain and be honest.
And then they're a customer for life.
Yeah, they are. Sometimes that involves selling them the thing that doesn't make you the most money, or sometimes anything.
Right.
That does build trust, and then that guy brought me so many customers over the year just because I was able to win him over and just be on the level.
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Elisa, thank God we got the right John Carter on the podcast.
Right.
Because
I think we are too.
Thank God we got the right one, because I know I know a few, and we've talked about that. But man, John, what you shared here has really been amazing on so many levels. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your pearls of wisdom here on our podcast. It was really great.
And it was so much fun. It was really an honor.
Well, we'll have you back again, because we're always interested in what Jack Lewis Jewelers are doing and marketing, and keep us atop of what you're doing and how exciting. I know that your big holiday season's coming up. And any word of advice to our audience from the John Carter, how to get and survive retail in the holiday season?
You just got to knuckle down and do it. And as we all know, it's a year-long process just to prepare for it. Don't ignore your family.
That's a good one.
It's easy to do that time of year. Go home for dinner.
Yeah.
At least a couple times a week, or every night if you're lucky enough to do that. Celebrate your small victories during the season. Have a glass of whatever you love to have at night, and just celebrate that we work in a trade that is so beautiful, and you're surrounded by beautiful things, and you have great people that walk in the door that value what it is that you do, and just enjoy it. I think that we spend so much time dreading those 4 weeks of the year that we all like to complain about the other 11 months, but again, like we said before, it's worth it, and get out of it what you put into it, and just make sure you don't ignore the people that are most important and why you do that. Make time for those people too, and it makes the season a lot easier.
Amazing.
Wonderful advice, isn't it? That's good advice.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Now I got to show my wife that. So now I'm going to have to actually.
Now your wife's like, I heard you say.
Where are you?
Right, come home for dinner.
No, she.
Where are trade shows? Are you going to any trade shows coming up, or do you do the trade shows?
I'm done. I'm done for the year now.
You
I think
are?
for shows. This is kind of the time of the year where if my wife and I can get away a little bit, we try to do that. We just
Good.
little trips or whatever. Kind of preparing for that calm before the storm. And no, I'm trade showed out by the time we get to September. I did. I did pretty good. I did the gauntlet this year. I've been to just about any one that you can think of from
I figured you probably have.
January on. So no, we're
Okay.
good. I think it's at this point it's a little too late. We got the product in the showcases that we're going to have, and we're going to monitor that. And we're going to reorder things as they sell, and we're going to keep the cases as fresh as we can.
Well, I hope to run into you at a trade show up in 2024, John. I really do.
Yeah.
Yes, I need to get down to the Atlanta show. I know that's
We just got back from Atlanta. It's a great, it's a great venue and great people.
I love it.
We'd love to talk to you about coming to Atlanta for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's get down there. I would love it.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So thank you so much, John, for joining us here on the Pearls of Wisdom podcast. And many, great, wish you all the success and thank you for, being a great example for the jewelry, for jewelers out there. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Guy. I'm a lucky guy surrounded by great people.
Fantastic.
In a great industry. So it's been a pleasure, John. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. We couldn't be more thankful to interview you today.
Yep.
Thank you, Elise.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for sticking in there while listening to this Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry podcast. Thank you. Check out John Carter and Jack Lewis Jewelers on the internet, on their Facebook, on their YouTube. Give them some love because he's amazing. They're amazing. Thank you. Check out, of course, Southern Jewelry News and Mid-America Jewelry News. If you're not looking at Elisa, she's looking ridiculous right now, but that's amazing. And thank you, Elisa. And you need help. Jewelry Store Marketers is here. So thank you again.
That's right.
And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pearls of Wisdom Jewelry Podcast. For more information about the show, please visit southernjewelrynews.com/podcast, brought to you by Southern Jewelry News and Jewelry Store Marketers. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you can catch the next show. See you then.